The Coonhound Collective podcast is brought to you by CZ Welding and Custom Dog Boxes. Dog boxes built by hunters for hunters. Check these guys out today. This is your host, Jason Snellgrove, and I will be your guide as we journey down the road to pleasure hunt or hitting the long trail to those great comp hunts. This is the Coonhound Collective podcast. Hey, this is Jason with the Coonhound Collective podcast. You might have noticed that we didn't drop an episode last week, but we're going to be backing off and we're going to go to every 2 weeks releasing episodes. That's just a personal thing for me. We deer season right here in full swing in Missouri, and I've got some young dogs that I'm hunting, a dog that I'm trying to push in some hunts, and I do all my own editing and stuff like that. And I appreciate all the listeners out there, but this is just going to help me out to be able to get in the woods to do what we're here and love to do, and that's get out and chase some coons with a dog. So just be looking. It's going to be the same day, and later on in the year we may go back to doing it weekly, but for right now and for the foreseeable future, we're going to back off and go to every 2 weeks. So be looking on every other Thursday for us to be dropping an episode from here until the foreseeable future. If we go back to weekly, I'll come back and let you know. Hey guys, thanks for listening. And if you don't mind, go over to, if you're listening to us on Apple, drop down there and give us 5 stars. Leave us a review. We really would appreciate that, or wherever you're listening to your podcast. Welcome to the Coonhound Collective podcast today. Today I am going to be talking plot dogs with Mr. Jeffery Koons. Mr. Jeffery, how are you today?
Doing good. Doing real good. Thanks for having me.
Oh, I appreciate you taking your time to be on the podcast today, and I'm really looking forward to it. I'm really excited. I think this is, like I said there before we hit record, I think this is something a lot of people in other breeds don't know a lot about, and we want to definitely do our part to shine the light on the plot breed and talk about some dogs that have produced some good winning dogs. So why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself, kind of where you're from, and kind of how you got into coon hunting.
Okay. I'm from Gloucester, Ohio, born and raised here. I've lived in 3 houses my whole life, and 2 of them's been on this farm. So I've stayed here. I'm planning to be here. Started coon hunting with probably grade 4 or 5 with my uncle Fred Cavey. He had the plot dogs before I was born. His first plot dog came to be about in 1957, and still to this day we have the same blood that he started with back in 1957. I've got the same blood I started with, when I was in 4th or 5th grade. Went through a lot of them between now and back then. It's watered down a little bit more. It may be stronger in some points. We try to line breed, and then we outcross, and then that's how I got started, and I've stuck with it ever since. I've had other breeds. I've had Walker dogs. I've hunted other breeds for other people. I've enjoyed them. Had some pretty good Walker dogs. Had a good black and tan one time, but I've always had plot dogs.
Yeah, so you talk about back in the 50s when this line got started. Was it a specific line of plot dogs that these dogs come from?
Well, his dogs went back to like Kid's Jeff, the Kid blood, which pretty well everything originated from. North Carolina Tom, Nickel Stormy, and then that went into like the tack dogs, the Tree Tot and Casey dogs, and then on up. Dean Kitchen, he had that same blood too, and he outcrossed, and he had Kitchen's Tally, Kitchen's Bud, which was off of my uncle's Bud dog. So all what I did was when I went to bench shows with everybody, all the old timers, and I'd go to a coon hunt, I'd say, well, that's what I want, or that's how I want my dog to stand, and I would just collectively put everything together and think, well, this is what I want to do someday, and we've done it and had some decent luck.
Yeah, and it's people that I've talked to, especially in doing this podcast, when we talk about breeding, especially guys that line breed, it's really and pride might not be the right word that I'm looking for here, but it's almost a sense of pride to carry that tradition on through generation after generation. I'm sure that's important to you as well.
Yeah, I mean, it is, but I'm not afraid to say that somebody else has a good coon dog, or I'm not afraid to get a shot of you know, another coon dog because that's what I want. Our goal is to make the next one better, and make the next one louder, make the next one tree harder. You know,
Yeah,
Okie was born in 2000, and he was a quiet type dog. He was a kind of a moody dog. There toward the end, he didn't like to haul good, but he was like a collaboration of everything that I kind of wanted. You know, we had our dogs, and then I told a buddy of mine, Garrett Shad, I said I want a Jim Beam female. Lynn Perry had Jim Beam back in the '80s, and I said I want a Jim Beam female, and he went over and bear hunted with Clarence Smallridge, and so one day he called and said, "Jeff, I found your Beam female." I said, "Okay, good deal." So we met, and I got her, and she was a bear dog, but she would still tree coon. She wasn't a wide hunter. She was used to being rigged and things like that, but she would tree a coon. Not a really a good looking dog, but we crossed her with my old Tango dog, which was everything that that we ever hunted, and and the rest is kind of history. Another name I want to mention back is Pete Bentley's dogs, Pigeon Hill Barney, and those dogs are in there, which goes back to Carl Placer's Chuck. These dogs go back to Frank Belden's Cajun dog, which goes back to Carl Placer's Chuck. So it's just a little bit of everything that we've always had that we try to keep close. You know.
Yeah, one thing you mentioned there was you're not afraid to go out and get something else to produce the next best hound, and I honestly think as time has went on, that's what's made the Walker dog breed so successful in night hunts overall. Is those guys can have a knockdown drag out fight on Saturday night, and if their female comes in heat Sunday morning, they're on the phone calling that guy that they had a knockdown drag out fight with to breed to. And I think with some of our other breeds, and maybe that's not the case with the plot breed I'm not as familiar with, but in some of our other breeds, we become, I guess, kennel blind, or we look at who owns the dog instead of looking what it can do better for our breed, whatever that breed might be.
Yeah. Um, Okie's been crossed with a lot of different, I guess, what you want to call lines or whatever. But we have, females or male dogs that goes back to several different stud dogs in the plot breed, over the last 10, 15 years. And, some we like, some we don't like. Some we keep, some we don't keep. But there's like traits that I like to look for. And my boys hunt with me. My oldest boy, Jacob, he hunts more with me than the other two. I have three boys, Jacob, Tanner, and Sawyer. Um, but they've all hunted with me up through the years. And Jacob's more into the dog sports and the Beagles and the Coon dogs than I am, or than the other two. But um, I tell him, there's this trait. I like this trait. I like this trait. And it seems to be like now. And somebody told us about 3 years ago at plot days. They said, "Well, we can tell that that's out of your dogs because they kind of all look alike." And we don't like announce that or publicize it, but that's what we're shooting for. Traits are traits, and I'm a firm believer that if this dog has this trait, and I want to keep that going. And color, voice, tree intensity, trackability, and everything. There's good traits and bad traits. You get a lot of the bad traits too, but can't. You got to take the good with the bad.
Yeah. So, in talking about traits there, say if someone was interested in and wanted to get a plot hound from you, what are those traits that you have seen passed down generation after generation? You know, loudmouth, good tracking, good tree, etc. What are those traits that you've seen in your line of dogs?
Well, you're going to think I'm crazy. Probably everybody else will too, but I probably am a little crazy. But you know, it goes clear into the collar. A lot of the dogs with a little strip on their back toe, a little strip on their front toe, or a white patch on their chest. Um, you know, the dark collar. Uh, I look for the. You can't tell that when they're a puppy, but you can tell it when they get to barking, at something, or when they're old enough to start wanting something, that tree intensity where they just kind of lock in, and old Okie was a very intense tree dog. And he was, I never hunted him by himself. I mean, I very seldom hunt a dog by itself. I usually take two or three. And I'm a firm believer if a dog's going to be natural, that's what I want because that's what I'm producing. No matter if I break it from backing a dog, that dog's not going to produce not backing a dog. So I just, let the, ball where it land where it may. And, that intense tree dog, Okie, was a natural tree dog, split tree dog, and he very seldom was with another dog. There, when he got older, he was with other dogs, but that was before the Garmins, so you don't know if they was with him or he was with them. So, but that's just a natural trait that just fell down from the sky, and I like that.
Yeah, and I definitely want to get into the nuts and bolts here of talking about Okie because he definitely looks like he's done his part in the stud pen. But before we move into that, there in Ohio, I try to cover this because, like for me, I've never hunted in Ohio, and I'm sure there's other people that'll be out there listening that hasn't. What kind of hunting terrain do you have there? Is it field, rolling hills, mountainous, etc.?
Well, we're in southeastern Ohio, about 80 miles southeast from Columbus. An hour from Parkersburg, West Virginia. So we're in the hills. We hunt big timber. 98% of the time we hunt farms. The saying is, my saying, I guess I have a lot of them, is where there's coon, where there's cattle, there's coon. And it's just rolling hills. I mean, two, three coon a night, you're happy.
Okay. Yeah, I just like to cover that. That way, people can kind of visualize what kind of hunting you've been hunting in as we go through here, and it kind of gives people an idea of
Now,
what other terrain is.
we can go an hour and we can be in flat country. We're 2 hours and 15 minutes from Holmesville, which is a poplar spot. So, that's great hunting. Um, we went to the zones this year and it was 3.5 hours to Mercer, Pennsylvania. So we're just kind of down here in the corner in the hills, but we have a decent coon population. Now, our coon are more concentrated. Like if you hunt Wayne National Forest, you're going to trade a coon, but you're not going to trade a boatload of them.
Yeah, well, I understand that for sure. I was talking to you about before we hit record here. I lived in Illinois for about a year and actually hunted some flock dogs for Mr. Wesley Good, who was on a previous uh, segment with me on the podcast here, and man, it was just coons everywhere. I mean, really thick coon population where we were at there, right off the Wabash River, and then to where I'm at today here in Missouri. And the crazy thing is, I lived up outside of St. Louis, and we had kind of the same coon population we did in Illinois, but I moved down here south in southwest Missouri here in the Ozark Mountain area, and boy, my coon population is way down compared to what it is. It's kind of the same state can have that much coon in one area and so little coon in another area. It's kind of crazy, but hey, that's just the way it is.
I used to hunt out there. I used to go out there once or twice a year and hunt with my uncle to Bud and Albert Brinkman's right there where you, not very far at all from where West stayed.
Okay, okay. Um, So we mentioned Okie a couple of times. I don't know if that's the dog that you want to start with, but let's jump into these dogs and where Okie come into the picture and kind of what he was out of and stuff.
Well, we had uh, Okie's dad was Tango, and Tango's dad was Cash. Cash was out of Davis's Raider and Mansell's Pansy, which went back to Dean Kitchen's dogs and my uncle's dogs, which all come out of the same bucket. And just through the years, we bought Cash off of Dean Kitchen when I was probably 17, 16, 17 years old or so. And Cash, if I had Cash today with all the modern technology, his name would have been on things. But, back then we had the old Radartron shocking colors, which really didn't have a whole lot of luck with. But he was trashy. He was a beautiful tree dog, and he had that trait of a solid tree dog. I mean, the focused. I always said he would set and type. And Sally, she was out of Pigeon Hill, Barney, pretty sure. And so that's just the collaboration that everything goes in full circle. So we had Tango. No, Sally was out of Cash, and Tango and Sally was litter mates. So, no, I'm wrong. Tango and Roxy was litter mates. So we bred Cash to Sally and got Tango and Roxy in them. And then I had Roxy was probably still my all-time favorite coon dog. She was just a good old-fashioned coon dog. She would just tree a coon after tree a coon, just tree a coon, tree a coon, tree a coon. About once a month she'd tree a possum, and I could tell you exactly when she treed a possum. She just fell treed, and I'd say, that's a possum. They'd say, oh, it is not. I said, I guarantee you, that's a possum. We'd walk in, be a possum. And she just was silent on the possum. I don't know if she just ran across it or what, but once a month she'd tree a possum. But she was a coon dog deluxe, just a, hide dog. She wasn't much of a competition dog. I had some places with her. I placed with her at Plot Days in Tell City one time, but she was just a good old fashioned coon dog. But she produced coon dogs, and so anyway, we bred Tango, which was Roxy's litter mate, and bred her to the Maggie, fur making Maggie dog that we got off of Theron Small Ridge, which was out of Jim Beam. And then me and Monty Blower owned, I had the litter here at my house, and I sold pups at Plot Days in Pomeroy in 2000. And Monty Blower hunted with us, and he lived here in Gloucester. He's passed away since then. But a guy that he worked with at the coal mine bought him, and I don't know, 12 months later, I'd say, he wanted to get rid of him because he had he wouldn't handle for him. He wouldn't come back. He was just high maintenance. So we bought him back, and we'd hunt him and hunt him and hunt him and hunt him, and he was just gone. But he was just gone. He would just go hunting, never at a tree, nothing. All one night we had Josie, which Monty owned Josie, and I was probably hunting Taz, my old Taz dog, and or Roxy, and he just fell treed. And we said, man, Josie's really treeing hard tonight. So we walked into the tree, and it wasn't Josie, it was Okie. So that's when we was campaigning Redwood Josie pretty hard, and she come in heat. So I don't know, 16 months old, we took him to a hunt because we couldn't take Josie, and he got 3 first places in 2 weekends, a Saturday night, and then a Friday night, and a Saturday night, and then it was just, I'm not going to say easy, but he was just a natural. I mean, we had to train him, but he did the training himself because you couldn't hunt him with a pup trainer or an older dog because he never honored an older dog. But he just started training coon, and then he never quit.
Boy,
And
that's the kind you like, is whenever they come on like that on their own, and they pretty much just take off like that.
we had some long nights, before he did tree that first coon. Very long nights, very aggravating nights. You know,
Yeah.
just
Well,
going in
I,
after him.
I'm gonna give Trevor Wade the credit here, because he wrote the ad, and I was reading through some of these ads that are not the ad, the story that he wrote on their forum page there, and I seen this, and that's when I reached out to you. And Okie had 120 at the time of this writing, had 127 pups, and out of that, 18 of those pups titled out, putting him second to Sizzling Heat on the reproducers list. So, and just going through here looking, you think about 18 pups, but when you go through here and you read these litters off of, 8 pups and four pups titled out, or, there was another one in here, I think it had 7 pups and 5 of those titled out. Whenever you're having litters with that many pups that are either being put in hands of people that are hunting them and making a dog out of them, and producing them, or those that Okie is just producing that much ability in those dogs to be able to go out and produce.
Yeah, he was a good producer. He was bred to some awful good females, so you have to give them credit too. But you can see his traits in a lot of the dogs. And we didn't do it. I didn't do it by myself. We the year that we hunted Josie and got 17th in the world with her. I don't know what year it was, 14 or 4 or 5 or 6 or something like that. That was in Palmyra, Missouri. And then we started hunting Okie. I never had much luck. Okie, as he got older, we hunted him in the Purina race. We hunted him at Autumn Oaks, all them big hunts. We hunted him in 13 different states one year. And, that got him known. He got beat. He beat some good dogs, but he got beat by some good dogs. So, that's part of competition. Like I said, didn't do it by myself. Monty Blower owned Josie. Me and him both owned Okie, and then I ended up buying all of Okie. You had Wesley Good, Evan Workman, Johnny Hager, Richard Emery, Lendell Perry, Kevin Lundholm, Tony Knight, Kyle Emery. We call it the Team Redwood. And we have our West Virginia branch, we have our Indiana branch, and now we just torment each other, about the southern branch and the eastern branch and the western branch. And then now Ryan Beatty from Canada, he's got he bred a female to our old Hokie dog, which was out of Okie. And so he's got, matter of fact, my boy just got back from there last night. He went to Ontario and hunted, and they had a blast treating big coon.
Yeah, I seen a picture of that, and them were small bear cubs.
Yeah, Jacob said it sounded like a human falling out of the tree. But like I said, it's been a collaboration of a bunch of good buddies having the same goal and knowing what we want, and like I said, making the next one better. And I know I forgot somebody, and I apologize, but it's hard to remember names when you're on the spot.
Yeah, and you mentioned the Redwood deal there, and that's one thing that I have noticed, growing up, getting the magazines. If there was a Redwood plot in there, to me, there may have been some jealousy inside there that wasn't seen, but man, there was a lot of guys gathered around, congratulated everybody, and really seemed to support everybody. And when I talk to people on the podcast, they mention multiple people that help their line of dogs or help their breed of dogs, and it really takes a village, I guess you would say, to bring up a line of dogs like that and to make it successful. Hey guys, this is Jason at the Coonhound Collective podcast. Maybe you've been out hunting and noticed that your dog box is getting a little beat and banged up and you're looking for something new. Well, let me help you point in the right direction here. go see my friends over at CZ Welding and Custom Dog Boxes. Get a hold of Nathan Kaufman there on Facebook, and he can fix you up with a dog box. Make sure you tell him Jason sent you over there. He'll get you a good deal on a custom box. You'll get something that you can enjoy for years to come, that's built right, that's built to be with you for a long time. Nathan uses what he builds, and it's a quality product. Not only that, go support someone like CZ Welding and Fabrication. Nathan stepped forward, and he's donated some boxes for some raffles, some benefit hunts, some youth events that's been able to be raffled off to raise some money for those things. And we want to help those guys out that help our sport. So go over, check my friends out at CZ Welding and Custom Dog Boxes. Give Nathan Kaufman a call and do business with a true hunter. These are dog boxes built by hunters, for hunters. CZ Welding, Custom Dog Boxes. Go check them out today.
That's very true. I mean, I compare coon hunting to a sport, athletic sport, which coon hunting is an athletic sport. You know, if your dog is not an athlete and it's not in shape, it's not gonna produce what you want it to produce. You know, as far as wins and, you know, hunting ability and being in shape and all of that. So, you know, I don't like to use the term but, you know, we all have the same goal in mind, and we know what it takes. And you've never seen a good sports organization win when they're feuding. You know, just like when somebody wins the Super Bowl, you know, everybody's on the same page. If somebody wins the World Series, everybody's gelling and everybody's on the same page. It takes either 9 on the baseball field, 11 on the football field, or 5 on the starting basketball court and a good bench. And that's the same way with coon hunting or rabbit hunting or anything competitive.
Yeah, that's just, you know, anybody that I've talked to that's had any success with their line of dogs, that's a common theory you hear over and over and over again of, you know, the people they have around them. They had people that they could put pups in the right hands in the right situations to really see what they had. Really, not even really trying to produce anything. A lot of them was just trying to see what they had, and it did produce something.
Yeah, I mean, we don't sell a lot of pups, but you know, we very seldom sell a started dog. I mean, if it's going to be a good one, we want to keep it. or somebody in our, you know, close group wants to keep it. So, you know, we want to make sure we take care of us first. But I guess what I'm getting at is, you know, everybody knows what we want, and we just shoot for that, you know. And, you know, a bad dog eats just as much as a good dog. So, you know, and there's bad ones. I mean, you know, anybody that tells you there's not, they're full of you know what. But, you know, you just want to have more good ones than bad ones, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. So before we move on from Okie there, how much intermingling with coonhound and big game hunting is going on in your line of dogs?
Are you tired of whipping, scolding, and shocking to make them get alone? Is your buddy tired of helping you set your dog up for correction night after night? Do you really want your dog to be alone because you forced him to be? Or would you rather him be alone because he wants to be? Grand Night Champion Small Town Lone Survivor is the product of over 25 years of strong natural-born independent traits. This bold trait has been passed down from generation to generation and is showing up in loner offspring today. Loner is a direct son of Hall of Fame Grand Night Champion Cabin Creek Rowdy and Grand Night Champion Lonesome Dove Lori. Loner has a booming mouth that is talked about in every cast he has been in, including the 2021 World Hunt Finals. Loner is a no-reverse, ball-mouth open trailer who ends it plussed up with a huge dying locate and steady chop. Loner loves getting split and is a stay-put gun-pressure tree dog. Loner's intelligence is also impressive. He knows over 12 voice and hand signal commands. Loner has a character that loves like Jesus, but he doesn't walk on water. If you're interested in breeding to Loner, contact Brett Stevens at Small Town English Kennels at 417-300-3777 or find him on Facebook.
If you're interested in running a stud ad for your dog here on the Coonhound Collective podcast, reach out to us at thecoonhoundcollective@gmail.com. Send us a message through Facebook or Instagram, and we'll be glad to get with you to get you an ad built and get you pricing on all of our ads.
Well, Lendell Perry and a lot of guys down in West Virginia around the Buchanan, Philippi area, that part of West Virginia, they bear hunt the dogs, and we coon hunt the dogs. So, the singer dog, the sister dog, the cash dog, the Hokey we have now, June, they've all been bear hunted, but they're also coon hunted. But, some of the old bear stock is in these dogs. And, it takes a special dog to be a bear dog. I'm not saying these dogs are, great bear dogs, because they're not, but they're bear hunted. And then some of them make some pretty good bear dogs. But they bear hunt them and we coon hunt them. It's 3 hours and 15 minutes to Lendell's house. And, we'll go down there coon hunting or go to the, plot section on Elkins that Jamie Estep puts on. Estep puts on. And Evan lives in Philippi, and when he coon hunted hard, we'd get down there. He just bear hunts now. But Wes lives in Ripley, which I'm sure there's some bear there, but we get down there and coon hunt, or he'll come up to here. The dogs are bear hunted and coon hunted. I'm going to say they're better coon dogs than they are bear dogs, but myself, I've never bear hunted before. I want to go, and that's one on my list when I retire.
Yeah, well, and I've not either. I'm not big game hunting with dogs. It's something that I want to do, and hopefully we'll get to do here soon. But I just wanted to touch on that because I know you're kind of over there in that area where there is some bear hunting with hounds that go on, and I know the plot hound is a breed that has been used for some of that big game hunting, and I just wanted to touch on that briefly there. So
Matt Mushaw, he got a pup off of us last spring, and he's bear hunting it. So.
Okay, so all right, we talked about Okie, and let's talk about some of the. So obviously, I would think some of these pups he produced stayed there at your house. So let's talk about some of those pups. I think Splitter was one of them, but I don't know how far down the road he was from when you first started breeding him. So let's touch on some of these pups that he had.
Yeah, we had, Splitter. Rick Davis owned Splitter. I forgot Rick's name, so there's a name. I'm glad you brought Splitter up. Splitter, we had him here. We all kind of just teamed up and hunted him. He introduced me to new ground that I've never seen before, and I've hunted here all my life. He was a white hunter. Jason from Pennsylvania ended up buying him. He came here one night, wanted to buy a dog, so he bought Splitter. But he was a nice dog, but he just hunted so wide. And like I said, he introduced me to a lot of ground that I'd never seen before. But we had Splitter. We had, I know I'm going to forget some, Tony Knight's Ace dog, Kevin Lundholm's Melody dog, Richard Emery's Rock dog, Johnny Hager Solid Oak dog. Evan had two females, Spider and can't remember the other one's name. I'll think of her name here in a second. Spider and Wesley Good's Dixie dog, Richard Emery's Dixie dog. We all just hunted them and teamed up. We had OJ, between me, Richard Emery, Ryan Ellis, maybe put a win on him. But I'm trying to think of some other dogs that was out of the Okie and Josie. Josie and the Okie and the Josie cross was a very good cross, and some made it, some didn't. But the ones that did make it, they was pretty special. I'm kind of drawing a blank.
Yeah,
I know.
I'm looking at the listing here, and I guess that first cross was in 2003 with Josie, produced 8 pups, and the 4 that titled was Koons, Redwood, Josie again, Divided Acres, Rock and Rita, Knights, Redwood, Treeing Ace, Redwood, OJ, and then a month later, Okie's second litter produced Grand Night Champion Kyle's Brindle Redwood Rock, and Koons Redwood Nikki at Night.
Rock was out of Nikki.
Yeah. Okay. And that's just to name a few. So obviously you've got dogs that are producing. So to keep that line and to keep that producing, what dog was it a male or a female dog that you moved to next that you were campaigning hard and hunting hard like Okie?
We hunted Solid Oak hard. Johnny Hager owned we called him Little Oak. Johnny owned him. He lives down in Dingus, West Virginia. We hunted him in a lot of the hunts, and he did a lot of winning, and he's produced some pretty nice dogs. He was out of the Okie and Josie cross. And then we hunted the Dixie dog that Wesley Good owned. It was out of my Uncle Fred's female, and she was a really nice dog. Between Wes and myself and Evan Workman, we all 3 hunted her, and we all 3 treated a lot of coon with her and got some wins on her. She was a grand night. She was a nice dog. The little singer dog that Lindell has right now, she reminds me probably as close to anything as the Dixie dog that Wes had. Richard Emery's Dixie dog, she was out of Okie and Tiffany Kiefer's female. Tiffany Smershel, I'm sorry, female. I had her here when she was young, and I remember calling Richard one day and telling him, say, Richard, I think if we turned Dixie loose in a football field, she'd find a coon to tree, because she would just tree coon. She was not flashy by any means, but I'm telling you, wherever you turned her loose, it may be behind you, beside you, in front of you, but she would tree a coon somewhere. And she was just very consistent like that. And she was a fun dog to hunt. And then Richard and Kyle took her back out there, and they finished her out. And she was one of them. The Rock dog, he was a nice dog. He's produced some pretty good dogs over the years, Little Rock and those dogs. I think the Tack dog was even out of him that Richard had. But several different females, and several pretty decent dogs.
Yeah. Well, and like I've said multiple times, y'all definitely been successful, and I think a lot of that goes to the support group that you have around you. With helping hunting these dogs and putting them in the woods and in different people's hands in different scenarios. That's definitely gotta help for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So what do you got that you're hunting now?
We have the we had another dog that was out of Okie was Hokey, which was out of Kenny Roark's squall female, and I got him back. Kenny Roark sold the pups, and I got one back and its name was Hokey. Got him in June, hunted him all June, all July, took him to plot days, and got first place on Friday night and Saturday night with him. Got beat by Evan on Thursday night with his half sister. She won the Isaiah Kid, and Hokey got 2 first places that weekend. Hunted him at Autumn Oaks, won his cast there. He was a nice, very nice dog, but he was just not a very. He didn't have a real good mouth. I don't know if something happened to his mouth when he was younger. Alan Gilstrap and Kenny Roark kind of seems to think something happened to his mouth when he was younger. But he would tree a coon and tree a lot of coon. He just wasn't very loud, and he would tree on the tree some, but he would tree more around the tree, really close, like his chest, close to the tree. So I didn't really, push him in the hunts because he was just not that kind of dog that, it's flashy. It's not something that you want to see, that you would see on in the book. But come to find out, he produced some pretty nice dogs, and right now we're hunting a dog we call Little Hokey, and he is out of the cross we made 3 times, I think. I'm probably wrong on that, but with Lyndall Perry's Izzy dog that Lyndall bought off of Wes. And now we have several young dogs, and I think they're 4 now, Hokey and Singer and them. But, they're both Grand Knights. We have Sister that we're hunting now in the hunt, hot and heavy. We have a June female, which is out of the Hokey and Izzy cross. So, those dogs are just kind of taking up where the Okie Josie dogs and the Okie dogs left off, and we're producing those same traits that we like. And we're seeing the dogs all favor the same thing, like voice and focusedness, if that's a word. Just all the traits that we like, and that's what we're shooting for. And so far it's working because, we have a few little pups down there in the pen right now, and they're very, they bark a lot at times, but when they see something they like, they're focused. They all look a lot alike. So right now, I guess that, my son Jacob, he got world champion plot with Hokey this year. He won his cast at Autumn Oaks, got high scoring plot at Autumn Oaks. He won plot days, won the Isaiah Kid Award at plot days. So we're probably done hunting Hokey now in the hunts. Like I say, he's 4.5 or something like that. But now it's time to go on to something else. But we'll still hunt him around here, but he's probably done in the hunts. But he honestly, Hokey is a better dog when it's 20 degrees than he is when it's 70 degrees. We treed more coon with him in the bad nights in the winter than any dog that I've probably ever hunted in my life. He's got a good nose. When he strikes the track, he'll finish the track. And that's something. And so far, a lot of his pups act pretty good. They're still young. We have one now that's 11 months old, Rick Davis owns, and he is acting really good. So hopefully he'll be in the hunts next spring.
Yeah. So, in your breeding program there, as you're bringing this stuff along, are you a big fan of having your male dogs collected, or are you just breeding from generation to generation to bring that line along without having to dip back into some of the older blood?
We have them collected. We have a few straws of old Okie left. We've used a few and have had no luck. No luck at all. We bred him. See, his grandpup would have been a magic dog that she was a quad grand, from Michigan that Corey Hall owned, and we tried it on that and it never worked. We bred the Okie semen to something else too, and it never worked. Maybe might have been Singer, but we tried something on Singer and it didn't work either. It might have been the Okie semen because we like breeding grandpas, the granddaughters, uncles, the nieces, and just a lot of what the old timers always used to say.
Well, those, and I talked about this with Mr. Crozier whenever I had him on the podcast with Blackjack Blue Tick Kennels, and a lot of those old guys, that as these lines were developing through the years, they really had to sit down and put pencil to paper, and they kind of got that thing figured out to how to pass those traits on. And so I think that's a good thing for us to pay attention to continue to doing in our lines.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. If anything, people need to realize, this is my point of view. I mean, which probably is not worth much, but we want a coon dog before we have a competition dog. That's the first and foremost important thing. Your dog's got to tray a coon in a lot of different conditions and a lot of different terrain. And if you get that out of your dog box, most of the battle's won. So, that's just what I think that's the most important thing. You got to have a coon dog, tried and true, that you have faith in. When you turn it loose, that it'll tray a coon. And then that all goes back to where, when Hokey comes treed, he sounds like this dog did 10 years ago. Or when Sister comes treed, she sounds like this dog did so many years ago. Or June or Singer, or, they have those traits. And like we'll be hunting, and I'll tell Jacob, I'll say, well, boy, she hunts a lot like the old Roxy dog, or she trees a lot like old Sally, or, just things like that. And, I guess since, I'm the age I am now, I look back and I'll say, well, that's what them back years ago, that's what he used to say, or, that's what my Uncle Fred used to say, or that's what so-and-so would say. And I guess that does hold true.
Yeah. And unfortunately, I think I've had a few of them dogs when you drop the tailgate and open that dog box up and turn them loose. You didn't know what in the world they were going to do. So it is important, and one of the most important things, especially with social media, you see these pups and they're treeing coons 5-6 months old, and making night champions at 10, 11, 12 months old, and grand nights and stuff. And to me, the most important thing for me is I want a dog that tree a coon, but I want a dog that I enjoy taking and hunting, that I like.
Yeah, because I'm telling you, if it's miserable, it's no fun. It's no fun, and it's a hobby that that you can enjoy, and when it's miserable, it's no hobby in my book.
Yeah, I agree.
Just like we do in sports. I coach, and we don't have distractions. We get rid of distractions, and if it's not fun, you get rid of that distraction.
Yeah, for sure. So I meant to ask you this real quick. Where did the Redwood name come from?
My uncle that's what his kennel name was called back when I started, and I just kept it. So honestly, I really don't know where he got the name Redwood. I don't know if it was from Redwood Stain, the Redwood Forest, or what, but I've just kept the name. And,
yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's just a name. When you hear or for me, when I hear, my mind automatically goes to that line of plot dogs for sure. It's been around for a long time.
We enjoy them. The group, all of us guys that hunt together. We don't hunt together, but half a dozen times a year. But we enjoy them and we enjoy each other, and that's what makes everything more enjoyable.
Yeah, and that's the most important thing. Whenever you and your buddies can get together and take a group of dogs that you have and go out and hunt, have a good time, you can go win world championships and all the money that you can possibly think of winning with one. But there's not many things that are more enjoyable than just being together with a group of guys that you enjoy to be with and out hunting dogs that you enjoy hunting.
Lindell has his grandson now, and he's what, 9 or 10, I think, and he goes with him every time he can go hunting with him. He goes, and he's a hunter, and he really enjoys it. So one of these days he'll be our next handler.
Yeah. Well, we've been at it a little over 45 minutes now, and I know it seems hard to believe, and I don't want to keep you too long on a Sunday afternoon because I do appreciate you taking time to be on here. But do you have a coon hunting story that you might could share with us, something funny or serious or whatever?
Well, let me see here. We always, usually when we all get together, you never know what's going to happen. But Bandit, which was out of Okie, and Rick and Wes owned the mom together. We was hunting one night, and our buddy Dave Males was with us, and Bandit fell treed. Old Hokey fell treed one direction up the holler, and Bandit fell treed down the holler. So we went to Hokey, and then we went to Bandit, and we said, well, Rick, we always torment each other, and we said, well, Rick, Bandit's moved. Rick said, no, he hadn't. He's still there. I said, Rick, he's not in the same spot he was. So we get there, and he has climbed up a leaning tree over the holler. And, I mean, he was like, I don't like heights, but I would say he was every bit of a 2-story house up in the tree over a holler, which made it even higher. And a big oak tree. And, probably late July, early August. And we all said, how are we going to get him? And I said, well, I know one way we're not getting him, and I'm not going to go up there and get him. So we called and we shot. We got the dogs trained, down the holler. We tried everything, and he would not come down. And the coon was right above him, and he wouldn't come down no matter what we did. So Rick said, I'm going to go up after him. I said, Rick, you're nuts. He said, I'm going to go up after him. So he went up after him. He shimmied up the tree and got Bandit down. And thankfully it was a funny night, but it could have been a different story too if Rick would have fell, but that was on him. But it was funny before and funny, even more funny after. But it wasn't too funny. It was funny when he was climbing the tree too, but I was worried. But I mean, he was up there over top of a holler, and that probably tops the chart right there. But something that we always look back on and laugh.
Yeah.
But,
well, I've only had a couple of dogs that climb just a little bit up a tree, and most of the time it's been over water, so it ain't quite as scary. But I will say, this year on Friday night at the Zones in Palmyra, Missouri, after the hunt was over, my dog had stuck his head in a brush pile and pulled a tracking collar off, and of course, he got out of there and didn't know where he was at, and the hunt was over, and Braxton Wills was with me, and Braxton goes and gets his dog, and the other fella there was the guy that won the cast, and the other fella, he went and got to get his dog, and he come back without his dog, and I said, where's your dog? And he said, she's about 30 or 40 foot up a tree. And I thought he was joking. And sure enough, we go over there, and she is about 30 or 40 feet up in the tree. And, that was a little bit of a nerve wracking ordeal there until he got his hands on her.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll never forget. I was hunting years ago, and that's when we had the beep colors, and we'd make a drop with these two dogs, switch colors, make a drop with these dogs, switch colors. So we just got them out of the truck on one of the drops, opened the gate, opened the tailgate, and opened the dog box doors, and we sent the dogs right up the holler through the gate there, and we all looked at each other and said, them dogs don't have no tracking collars on them. Well, one of them was Lookie. Well, I had to get up and go to work. I had to be at work at like 5:30 the next morning. And we found him probably at noon. Somebody called, luckily, and had Okie. But that was a very nerve-wracking night, too. Night and day.
Yeah, and isn't it crazy? I actually grew up in the time where, I didn't have a tracking collar or tracking system forever. And I finally bought a collar that somebody could track with a quick track for me if I lost my dog at a hunt. And that's all I ever had for a long time. And nowadays, I wouldn't even think about turning a dog loose without a tracking collar on it.
No, we don't even think about turning them loose in the yard. We can't, I wouldn't turn them loose in the yard now without a collar. And we used to hunt without them. So times have definitely changed. More population doesn't help, but times have definitely changed. And where I remember if the dogs never come back and you couldn't call them in, you didn't know where they was at, you just lay your hunting coat down and you're back the next day.
Yeah, I had an old black and tan when I was in high school, and if he'd get out of pocket and I couldn't drove around, couldn't find him. I didn't have no tracking system, no tracking collar, nothing. And I'd go back to where I turned him loose at, and I had an old Carhartt jacket I'd throw down there on the ground. I'd come back first light the next morning, he'd be curled up laying on that jacket waiting on me.
Yep, it's amazing what, that probably has happened to everybody clear across this country. That's something that won't never happen again.
Yeah, that's for sure. Well, Mr. Jeffrey, we have been at it almost an hour, and I know it don't seem like that, but unless you have something else to add, I think we've covered quite a bit and shined some light on the plot breed. I think we're to a place that we can probably come to a close here, unless you got something to add or someone else you'd like to give a shout out to or thanks to.
I'd just like to thank everybody that, has called, contacted us, is hunting the dog. I'm not interested in just hunting one of our dogs, is pushing the plot dog. And if they're pushing one of our dogs, that's a plus. But, just make sure that everybody appreciates, that everybody knows that we appreciate them pushing a plot dog, because you read in the books, they're few and far between anymore, and always has been that way, but seems more so now. And there's a lot of good ones out there, but they're not all competition hunters either. But you don't have to be a competition hunter to own a good plot dog. So just so it's a coon dog, we appreciate them. I appreciate my boys carrying on the tradition. As you get older, you kind of lose that. I'm still competitive, but I guess my motor just has a lot of miles on it right now, and I still love it, and it's an addiction. Just like you said, Wes got you back in. Your wife said Wes got you back into this mess, and it's an addiction that you can't shake. And you always have that wanting to hear that dog tree.
Yeah, that is for sure. When I was not coon hunting, I don't remember not one fall that it didn't roll around, and that little cool nip in the air. You wake up that early that morning and that cool nip's in the air. And my first thought was, not deer hunting or a cup of coffee. It was, man, I wish I had a dog to turn loose tonight.
Yeah, there's several mornings I've woke up and went to work, and you just have that burning sensation all through your body, and it's from being so tired you can't keep your eyes open and see straight. But it's a when you look back at it, it's a good feeling, and that's a good feeling that you always want to feel.
Yeah, that is true. Well, Mr. Jeffrey, I really appreciate you taking the time to be on the podcast and really taking the time out on a Sunday afternoon to sit down and record with me. And if we can ever do anything to help you, don't be a stranger. Reach out to us. And again, I appreciate you sharing your history with us and about your plot dogs.
Same here, and I appreciate you thinking about me, thinking about us.
Yes, sir. Well, you have a good afternoon, and thanks for being part of the podcast today.
Okay, thank you. Have a good day.
Yes, sir.
Bye.
Thanks, guys, for listening to the Coonhound Collective podcast today. We really appreciate you taking your time out of your day to listen to the podcast. If you don't mind, head over to Facebook and give us a like, and head over to Instagram and give us a follow. It's both at the Coonhound Collective. Also, if you would like to reach us here at the Coonhound Collective, you can reach us at thecoonhoundcollective@gmail.com. If there's someone that you would like to hear on the podcast or a product that you would like to hear talked about, please send it to thecoonhoundcollective@gmail.com. Thanks again. Have a great day.